Hey all, in today's video we'll be making a bottom navigation bar, and we're going to start with an empty Figma file, and the only thing I have here is the color scale for my grays. And we're going to begin by grabbing a couple of icons. So you can use any icon that you like, but I'll be using phosphor icons. And this time I'll be using their Figma community file, which you can find on the community tab. So I have the file here, and I'm just going to use the search function to find a couple icons that I like. So let's say one of the icons that I want is a sun icon. So I'll search for it, and I'm just going to use the regular one. So I'll copy that, and I'll paste it here. So a couple things that I want to do is, first I'm going to detach this icon, and I'm going to resize it to maybe 22 pixels. And then I'll keep the name as a sun, and I'll turn it into an icon. And I'm going to grab 4 more icons and do exactly the same thing. All right, so we have 4 more icons here. Now what I'm going to do is group them together in one frame and call it icons, just so it's easier to find the icons later on. And then another thing that I want to point out is that all of the icons here are flattened, and each vector has the same name as vector. This is important because later on, when we will be overriding icon instances and changing between like active and inactive state of the tab, we want to make sure that the color of the icon is preserved. Now that we have our icons, we can create our tab component. So what I'm going to do is take an instance of the icon, and I'm going to make a text layer and call it label. We'll just keep it at inter, regular, and 12 pixels. So now I'm going to combine these two together into auto layout, and I'll center them. And then this first tab, we're just going to make it our not selected one. So I'm going to change the color to gray 500. And actually, these icons, as you can see, they have some like random color here that came from the phosphor icons file. So I'm just going to switch it to pure black so it doesn't confuse me. Back to our tab, I'm going to rename it to tab and turn it into a component. Now I'm going to add a few properties. The first one is going to be an icon swap. So this one, I'll go to the right panel and click on this icon here. And let's call it an icon. And we're going to add a couple more preferred values, which is all the other icons that we have. But this would definitely be more useful if you had a set of like 200 icons. And we'll create property. And another thing that we can do is that we can create a text property. So we'll go to this content section here, and we can just call it label and create property. So now if we grab an instance of the tab and look here on the right, first I can swap between different icons, and these are only going to be the icons that I want to use for the bottom bar. And I can also change the text directly from here. One more thing that we can do for our label is to log the case. So let's say somebody writes home here with all lowercase. We'll want to make sure that it's always capitalized. So what I'm going to do is return to our component and go to the text section here, click on this ellipsis icon, and then from here you can choose which casing you want. So I'll set it to title case. And now even if somebody accidentally or not writes home, it is going to still maintain the casing that we want. And this works both ways. Like, for example, now I'm attempting to write all lowercase directly from the canvas, but it still stays as capitalized. Now we're going to add our active variant. So I'm going to go to properties, click variant. It creates the component set wrapper. And now we're going to add our second one. So for a property, we're going to call it active, and this one is going to be no, this one is going to be yes. And the only difference is that for our active one, we want the color to be gray 900. And then we could also change the font weight of the label to be semi-bold. One small thing I noticed is I have spacing in between set 3, which is kind of an awkward value, so I just updated it to 2. Now we can test out our tab once again. So first let's switch a couple icons, and then let's change it to active, inactive to make sure that the icon changes its color as expected. And maybe one more thing I'm going to do to the tab is just reorder and to have icon on top of the label property. From here, we can move on to creating our tabs component. So I'm going to delete this, and let's grab an instance of a single tab. And I'm just going to copy, I think we need 5, and I'm going to wrap them into auto layout. And so for this one, our overall auto layout wrapper, it's going to be a fixed width depending on the device. So let's say it could be 390 pixels wide. So from here, what I'm going to do is select all of these and set them to fill the container. And let's rename this to tabs. Now we can turn this into a component. And I'm going to select all of our tabs here. And I'm going to rename them to tab. And then we'll add a number. So what we can do now is expose our nested instances. And to do that, you're going to go to Properties panel, click on the plus, go to nested instances, and just click all of these. Actually, I have an extra tab, so I just deleted that. So now we have just 5 tabs. Now, if I were to take an instance of the tabs component, I have all the individual instance properties for each tab right inside here. And because they're numbered, it's very easy to find which one is which. If I wanted, I could just start changing the properties directly from here. Returning to our overall tabs component, just as an option, we can add a variant with 4 tabs. And let's call this property number of tabs. This one is going to be 5, and this one will be 4. And the reason I deleted the 6 tab that accidentally was here earlier is because hopefully you wouldn't have an app that has 6 tabs. It just gets too much. 4, 5, or maybe 3 if your app is really small are typically ideal for navigation. 2 more things we can add to our tabs component is just some padding on the top and bottom. Let's say 4. And we're going to add a tab border. We'll give it the color of gray 100. It's very light over here. We can actually select these 2 and set a fill so you can see it better. And now what we can do is create an actual example with the tabs. So this one, we already have it set to home. Then for our second one, I think it's feed. For our third one, we're going to change the sun to search, and this one is going to be like explore. And our fourth one is going to be highlights. And our last one is going to be profile. An extra thing that we could do is to actually save this as its own separate component, because if this were a real app, you would probably want to have a tabs component that has your actual tabs inside it. And we can also combine this if let's say we were designing for iPhone, we would want to have like a black home indicator bar. So we can design that and then combine the 2 together and save them as one bottom bar component. So what I'm going to do is create a rectangle, and we'll just give it a height of 5 and width of 132. We'll keep it pure black and give it a rounding. And then I'm going to wrap it inside auto layout frame, set it to like 34, and align it to center. And the width of this one is going to be fixed, also 390. And now I'm going to combine it together with the tabs, set the spacing to 0, and we'll call it bottom bar. And we can also add a fill of white and save it. So that's about it for the bottom bar. I will leave the link to this file in the description, as well as the link to the phosphor icons. Please let me know if you have any questions or if you have any requests for a different tutorial, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.